Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Speak.
Good morning. I'm Ivana Acosta.
Good morning. I'm Justin Bell.
Our topic today is about global warming. We want to open the question up for discussion. What is it? Is it real?
Why do people in power dispute whether it's something to be concerned about? What does it mean to my generation?
How do students feel about this topic? We asked people on the Sonoma State University campus these questions.
We have two activists from the 350.org campaign to answer questions for our guest and to help find answers.
Welcome, Gary. It is a pleasure to speak with you about such a pressing issue.
Gary Pace is a physician and organizer in the North Bay of 350.org campaign to reduce CO2s in the atmosphere. What do you believe today's youth should be prepared to face in the future regarding the current changes in the environment? Gary.
Hi, well, thank you very much for having me here on your show today so that we can talk about this. I think it's extremely relevant to have these kind of conversations with the youth around here, because I feel like you guys are going to be the ones who are dealing with all the problems that are coming down the road. And the more you get informed about it and the more you get involved, the better I think it's going to go. So the way we're talking about this right now is people talk about global warming, but probably more precise is that it's climate instability. And so a lot of what we're seeing now nationally and internationally is climate change. So it may be warming, it may be drought, it may be extreme storms, some of the hurricanes that we're seeing. All this seems to be related to some of the changes in the atmosphere that almost certainly are caused by human activity. And some of what you see the debate being these days is around, is this change in temperature that we're seeing, is this part of a natural cycle, or is this part of is this related to human activity, specifically burning petroleum and burning fossil fuels? And I think, you know, there really isn't much of a controversy anymore. Almost all the major scientific groups are in agreement that these changes that we're seeing are related to the burning of petrochemicals. And most of the people that seem to be kind of critics of this or challenging that are are pretty much on the fringe of science, and probably are, have another agenda going on, that they're not really just trying to figure out what the truth is here. So, I think the way to think about this is that the big concern is that the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the levels are rising. And in doing that, it's sort of causing a destabilization of the mechanisms that have caused climate to stay within a certain sort of framework over the last several thousand years. And so what ends up happening is precipitation levels change. So some places get a lot of rain, some places don't get enough. Temperatures rise in some places, they can be more extreme in other places, but it's sort of the whole buffering mechanism that's been in place in the atmosphere and with the climate is the kind of the regulators are being taken away, and so things are becoming much more extreme now.
Sorry to
go ahead.
Step in, but I think I've seen that not only in Northern California and also in Southern California. Like you see shorter, or you see winter coming in a little bit later each year,
right?
Or like the snow, because I know a lot of snowboarders, even though I don't snowboard, I know that everybody's always complaining when when we can actually get some good snow to go snowboarding, and then when it finally comes, it's later than normal, or summer comes a little bit later, or fall comes a little bit later. So do you think those are because of the CO2 emissions?
Well, any specific thing you can't say, oh, that's because of the climate change, but those are the kind of patterns that we're seeing. And I think if you look at it as a pattern, it's yeah, you can see that the way the winter is now is quite a bit different than it was when I was growing up, and you can see those patterns kind of all over the planet right now. Whether you're in the Midwest, they're having this huge drought right now, or down in Australia, they're in a tremendous heat wave that is really problematic for them. And so if you start looking at these patterns around the globe, you can see that our ability to stay, to kind of be regulated within a certain area and for things to be this pretty consistent year after year are starting to change. And but I think that's probably an example of that. I don't know specifically how that works out, but it's those are the kind of things that I encourage people in your generation to start just paying attention to, because it's probably not going to be in 10 years from now, the way the weather is and the way the seasons is not going to be anything like it was when I was growing up, and that has a huge implications for what your life is going to be like and how we're going to feed ourselves. And one example is they're really predicting a lot of change in the sea level because of the way the ice caps are melting now in the Arctic and in the Antarctic. All the glaciers are starting to melt, and so all that water is causing a rise in the sea level. So I've heard that insurance companies and people like that are starting to do a lot of investing further inland because they think that's going to be the new coastline over the next 50 years and things like that. So, I mean, really, from a talk like this, what I would just hope people do is start getting tuned to this a little bit. And as you start seeing things in the news, or you start noticing things like, you can't snowboard like you could before, it's start looking at what's going on there and what the reason for that is.
And how all these unfortunate, our environment has been so unfortunate. Is there a way maybe we can reverse this whole process? Like, is there something that what can we do to start, going back to how it used to be? Well,
so if you basically, the first thing is to start recognizing that it's happening and that the level of the crisis it is, because, people like me feel that this is going to be the biggest single issue people in your generation are going to be dealing with. It's going to change things a lot over the next 20 to 30 years. And the main causative factor seems to be the way we use energy in our society. So it's gasoline, coal, natural gas. The way we're burning that and the sheer level of burning of energy that we do, burning the carbon puts CO2 in the atmosphere, and that's what's causing the changes. So.
Do you think that, you would think with all this new technology that we have nowadays that the environment or our environment would, be getting better because of all the new technology that's coming out? Do you think that's something that, the technology is affecting it?
So technology is one of the big discussions in this sort of thing, because we are currently using old technology to fuel our society. It's oil, coal, and natural gas, and all these things are very problematic. There is solar out there, there's wind power, there's different things, and people in other countries and in other areas have gotten very active about trying to do that. In our country, it appears that the energy companies are actively interfering with our ability to do these things so that they can maximize their profits. So one of the things, if people are interested in this, to go on the 350.org website. They've got a really good website, and they're very interested in having people start recognizing what the energy companies are doing to interfere with positive changes to protect the environment. And Exxon has made more profits last year than any company in the history of the world. So just take that in for a second, because that's gigantic, and they are actively trying to stop conservation efforts and shifts to solar, shifts to mass transit, these kind of things, because it's going to lower their profit margin. And what the people at 350.org are encouraging is to for us as a society, for civil society, to take steps to combat this big thing. And it's pretty overwhelming because we all drive cars to get to school and to get to work and everything, and so you feel kind of guilty and then you just sort of forget about it. But their point is that there are ways, there's technology available now to start making these changes that, but these companies are blocking it through the political process, blocking it through stopping some of the technology development and things like that. And one of the big programs that they're recommending is a divestment divestment campaign where people on college campuses work on encouraging their universities to pull out money in the big companies, just like in the South Africa anti-apartheid movement.
That's what I'm in a philosophy of law class, I believe, and we were talking about the divestment movement and Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela said like that was one of the like biggest influences, like the college campuses on the government and what the students had to say about it. So at this time, we would like to take a commercial break. But when we come back, I would like to hear more on what we can do as students today and how we can begin to change our ways.
Great.
So I don't know what that was. I just felt like we do.